Okay, so another tool or implement that I end up taking out with me into the wilderness of the bush when I'm out hiking, camping, any outdoor pursuit, are some paracord bracelets. Now, while I usually have some paracord in my backpack or in my pocket or whatever, it's also handy, I find, to have it just lashed to your wrist. And this is the most common I've seen out there. Most of you know it as the cobra weave, but it's also referred to as the salmon bar. There's quite a few YouTube videos about how to tie this, and while I find it's aesthetically an appealing pattern, what I found when I was using them in the woods actually what I used one of these for was to lash my teepee poles up at the top in a big circle, and it was enough cordage to be able to do that for one bracelet. And there's about 1.8 meters, so just under 2 meters of cord that I use for my size wrist. But the problem I had was it was cold out, and because I hadn't got my fire going, by the time I got this little singed part out from where the tag ends are, and then started picking this apart because I tied my weave quite tight, it was actually quite hard for frozen fingers to get all of these apart. And it took about 5 minutes to get undone. So I'm going to go over a new weave that I've found for bracelets, and actually the zipper sinnet, as it's called, and I'll show you how to start tying that in a second, because I haven't found too many YouTube videos about how to do that. And it still looks pretty good for a survival paracord bracelet, but the big difference I found in this was when you take it off, it holds about 2.4 meters for my size wrist, so quite a bit more cordage per bracelet. So if you have a few of these, you get a little bit extra cordage out of that, which is a good thing in the survival situation. And yeah, I'll just show you how to start that and tie it off in just a second. Okay, so just started with 2 pieces of paracord, and they're about 1 meter, 1.2 meters long each. I've just tied a simple overhand knot. And to start from that knot, and I find it easier to do the knot on this side rather than the other side, and I'll get to that in just a sec. See if I can see what I'm doing here. First I'll do a loop. I just take that loop in behind that and pinch it snug to that knot. Then I take the lighter strand, or the right hand strand, and put it through the other side of that loop, drawing the left side down. So once I draw the left side down, I pull up on the existing loop, or the larger loop, and cinch this side flush. And as I'm pulling that on the left side, I know that left side is going to go through the loop. So I just put it through forward, and then pull on the right side. So it doesn't really matter how big that loop is, just so long as you see here there's a little bit of a gap, and I like to keep it pretty snug, so I'll pull on that tag end just to pull this through, to pull that through snug. And then after that I pinch and pull there, so it tightens this part up through here. Then again on the right side. And as I'm zippering my way up, basically just pulling, snugging it up. And I find that for just remembering which one to pull, or if you're going on your left side, you're tugging on the left side, you'll be putting it through the left, to the right first. And as you're zippering your way up, making a little bit of a pattern, you can see there's a little bit of excess there, and I just simply keep pulling until I snug everything up. Start the pattern, and once you follow the pattern, it'll make sense. It's pretty simple. So just one thing to be aware of though, as you're going up the zipper sinnet, with each loop, having the start of that loop going around this way, so that your tag end is coming on the outside, the very far outside edge. Same with the right side, as you pull that loop through, making sure that the tag end is going towards the far right hand side. And what that does is you pull it flat, keeping it out this way, snugging everything up. It's keeping that pattern flat. So it's a little bit wider here and flat here. Otherwise, if it starts binding this way, they'll start building the pattern sort of in a spiral shape, unless that's the look you're going for. But to keep everything flat is just keeping going that way, but making sure as you snug everything up that it's a little bit more flat. And just keep working your way up. It's pretty simple, exact same motions over and over again. The tricky bit is just trying to get everything tightened up as good as possible. Okay, so after you've finished your bracelet, the biggest key difference I find with the zipper is that just for time's sake, while you're out, say surviving, you need a quick tourniquet or lashing to something, and you're in a hurry, you got cold fingers, and you have a hard time getting one of these off and undone, like I already have. And this is where I find the usefulness of this, is once you've just basically cut your knot end or your loop end off, all you have to do is grab a hold of the two tag ends and just start pulling. And obviously, the tighter your weave, a little bit harder you're going to have to pull. But as you can see, within seconds, you've got that whole bracelet undone. So not only more cordage can you get out of the bracelet, but also it's a lot easier, much quicker, less hassle than taking apart something like a cobra weave. So I think for myself, going out into the wilderness, I will be making a few more of these. Okay, so after you've got the length that you need for your wrist, following the pattern all the way up from your overhand knot, which is tied off and singed at the end, coming to the other end, you basically just come to the end of the pattern and use that loop to go through the knot. So you're making sure that your loop is just big enough for that knot, and not any bigger or any smaller. And then what I do, you can do an overhand knot on either tag end, but I've never had a problem with this. I've just cut off each tag and then simply singe the remaining fibers into the pattern, basically. And you're really just wanting to melt as much as you can at the end, just that very end part, and taking care not to burn the rest of the paracord. And I find that that'll stay in place as long as you've got it all snugged up, ready to go. And the same with the other side. So holding on to the thing, and it's a little easier to do with scissors as well. I just have my knife handy. And a big lighter. And as you singe the ends of it, I find it just mushrooms out It mushrooms out pretty good. Oh, sorry, I'll try and refocus the camera. So yeah, it just mushrooms out so that that end won't come out unless you really, really pull on it hard. I haven't had a problem yet with any of my bracelets coming apart. There you go. Zipper sinnet. Much easier to come apart and to pull apart with either worn out or cold fingers. And still aesthetically, instead of just rolling up a ball of twine and throwing it in your pocket, something to put around your wrist. Another addition to my survival pack, or what I carry out into the wilderness. Thanks for watching.